If you want to obtain a Mississippi dealer license, all you need to do is obtain a dealer surety bond and insurance from an insurance agency. You're going to need to get a federal tax identification number and a Mississippi sales tax license. You have to have a building and a lot. You are going to have to sit through a training course, and then you're going to submit your Mississippi dealer license application to the Mississippi Department of Revenue. And I'm going to show you exactly how to get your Mississippi dealer license right now. Hello, I'm Dallas Johnson with Dealer Training, and if this is your first time here, I want to welcome you. If you're a licensed dealer or you are interested in obtaining your dealer license for the very first time, our content is designed just for you, so please consider subscribing so you can listen to content for dealers as soon as it is uploaded. First, however, I want to give you some really valuable contact information with Mississippi Department of Revenue. So Mississippi dealers are regulated by the Mississippi DOR, and you can call them at 601-923-7143. And by the way, that website is dor.ms.gov, and you can find a direct link to this contact information at dealertraining.org. Just click on the Get License link at the very top of every page, then click on the Mississippi Dealer License link, and you will be taken straight to the official Mississippi Dealer License page. Step number 1, dealer surety bond and insurance. You must obtain a dealer surety bond and an insurance policy in order to obtain a Mississippi dealer license. And I always recommend this as the first step in obtaining a Mississippi dealer license. The cost of your dealer surety bond is going to be based on your credit score, and the cost of your insurance is going to be based on your driving record. I'm often asked what it costs to get a dealer's license, and I can never really answer that question accurately because the total cost will depend on your credit score and your driving record. The state of Mississippi requires you obtain a $15,000 dealer surety bond in order to be granted a Mississippi dealer's license. Now, is the bond going to cost you $15,000? Of course not. It's going to be based upon your credit score. And with good credit, you should be spending about $100 to $200 a year for your bond. So your insurance company will normally send you an invoice every year, maybe every other year. If you have a couple of blemishes on your credit score, the price of your bond can increase dramatically. The bond must be executed by a surety bond company that is legally able to operate in the state of Mississippi. You're also going to have to obtain a special insurance policy before the state of Mississippi will allow you to be granted a dealer's license. Your insurance policy will be dependent upon your driving record. So if you have a really bad driving record, you may pay a lot more for your insurance. You're also going to be able to find out that your insurance policy is going to cover the vehicles that are in your inventory, but it's also going to have to cover the vehicles that you use as service vehicles. So the vehicles in your inventory are the vehicles that are being test driven by your customers, and your service vehicles would be, for example, a truck that you own. Maybe you're hauling cars back and forth from a dealer auction. That is a service vehicle. And the state of Mississippi does require every vehicle driven on any roadway in the state to have insurance, including the vehicles in your inventory when they're being test driven by your customers. You're also going to be required to get a federal tax ID number and a Mississippi sales tax number before you can apply for your Mississippi dealer's license. Now, you can get your federal tax ID number for free. You just have to go online and go to the irs.gov website. It takes just a few minutes. It's literally a couple of clicks of the mouse. But what is a federal employment number for? Well, I'm going to make a very bold prediction here. If you take the necessary steps to obtain your Mississippi dealer license, I predict your income will increase dramatically. In fact, many of us that have gotten a dealer's license have realized profits that were really unimaginable before we were ever obtaining a dealer's license. And with that increase in your income, I guarantee the federal government is going to want a little bit of that action at tax time. So that's why we have to get a federal employment number. This number shows that the state of Mississippi that you are going to pay your federal taxes. And you're going to have this number on your tax returns. And you're also going to have it on your Mississippi dealer license. That shows that you're ready to pay federal taxes on all the profits. You're also going to have to get what's called a Mississippi sales tax number, so you can easily collect sales tax on the vehicles that you sell. So remember, you've got to get your federal tax ID number and your Mississippi sales tax number before you apply for your Mississippi dealer's license. If you have any questions about your sales tax number, you can call them directly at 601-923-7700. Once again, that's 601-923-7700. And I want you to be aware you can find all this contact information at dealertraining.org. Just click on the Get License tab and then scroll down to Mississippi. You're going to have a building and a lot, and your building must be used for your Mississippi dealer license. So you are allowed to have another business in the building, but the state of Mississippi, the Department of Revenue in Mississippi, which regulates dealer licensing, wants to make sure the main focus of your building is the operation of a dealership. So your building must be enclosed and it must be devoted mainly to the operation of your dealership. I want you to be aware that you must make sure that you meet all local zoning requirements. Okay. Now, if you're in a city, you can contact your city hall and contact planning and zoning and tell them the address of the building that you want to operate your dealership at, and they'll tell you whether or not you can have a dealership at that location. If you're in a rural area, you're not in an incorporated city, you can call your county and just ask for planning and zoning, tell them the address that you would like to operate that dealership at, and they'll tell you whether or not you can have a license at that location. So the state of Mississippi does require that all dealers meet all local zoning requirements. One thing I want you to be very aware of, once you get your dealer's license, that will determine where you're actually able to sell vehicles. So it's very important that you know this, okay? Now, right now, I'm assuming that you don't have a dealer's license, so you're able to sell vehicles anywhere you want. You can put a for sale sign on that car and go stick it out in front of Walmart, until the Walmart manager runs you off or whatever. Once you get your dealer's license, that law will change. And once you get your dealer's license, the Mississippi Department of Revenue will actually require that all your sales activity take place right there at the retail location, okay? So you can't sell vehicles away from the lot unless you're selling vehicles, say, for example, at a dealer auction. So if you ever have, say, for example, somebody down in Biloxi calls you up and says, hey, come on down here and bring that car down here and show it to me because I can't make it up where your dealership is at. You'll literally have to tell that person in Biloxi that you're not allowed to do that by the state, and they'll have to come up and take a look at it at your lot. Now, how do you handle this if you're handling internet transactions? Well, it's very easy to do, actually. What you can do, send all that paperwork to that customer in Biloxi, make sure they send you back the payment plus the paperwork, and once you've received that at your licensed location, that will show the state that that's an on-site transaction, and at any time after that, you can ship or deliver the vehicle down to Biloxi. But what you could not do, say, for example, is just maybe meet that person halfway there on the interstate and do the paperwork at some rest area and accept payment there, because that is illegal off-site sales activity, and that will lead to the automatic revocation of your Mississippi dealer license. The state of Mississippi is one of the many states that require you to sit through a dealer training class before you can obtain your Mississippi dealer license. The class does take 8 hours. Unfortunately, there's only one company in Mississippi that's approved by the state to provide your mandatory training classes, and they provide training in Pearl, that's just east of Jackson. They're charging $375 for that training class. And, what's interesting is, in the state of Mississippi, there's probably about 50 companies that can give you your insurance training. There's 50 or more companies that can give you your mandatory real estate training. But unfortunately, the state of Mississippi only allows one company to give you your dealer license training. So they definitely have a monopoly on this. And like I said, at this time, they're charging $375 for that training class. So, if you think that you should be able to have other training opportunities, you might want to contact your state representative and state senator and let them know there's only one company in the state that trains dealers, and you have to drive to Jackson to take those classes. So one thing also I want you to be aware, before you submit your application, you need to make sure your Mississippi dealer license application is completed correctly and in its entirety, because if you make mistakes on that application, it will be returned. So you want to spend some time on that thing, and you can download it at dealertraining.org. Just click on the Get License link at the very top, and then scroll down to Mississippi, and you can easily download your Mississippi dealer license application. There's a lot of great contact information for you there for you to get started. So once again, if you want to have direct access to the licensing bureau, that's the Mississippi Department of Revenue Motor Vehicle Licensing Bureau. That phone number is 601-923-7143. Once again, that's 601-923-7143. Their official website is DOR for Department of Revenue, dor.ms.gov, and all that information is on your dealertraining.org website for you to have direct contact information. And you should get your license back within about 30 days. Hopefully in your dealer training class, they'll go over that application with you and spend some time on that. I've got a feeling when you take your class, a lot of times they'll try and sell you memberships and things like that. And you're not required to have a membership to have a dealer's license. I want to repeat that. You're not required to have a Mississippi dealer's license. You're not required to have a membership in any association if you want to have a Mississippi dealer's license. So there's a lot of dealers that think they have to belong to an association to have a dealer's license, and that is not the case, okay? So if you have someone telling you you need to pay membership fees to an association to have a dealer's license, contact the Attorney General's office because they are giving you false information. Once you get your Mississippi dealer's license, you must display it prominently. And, you're going to work really hard to obtain that license, and you're going to be really proud of it when you get that Mississippi dealer's license. So the Mississippi law does require that you display your dealer license prominently. You don't shove it in some desk drawer or lock it in a vault. You want to frame your official Mississippi dealer license, display it on the wall where everyone can see that you've worked hard to gain that license. On a final note, I've been in this industry for many, many years. I've owned a profitable dealership myself, and I have trained entrepreneurs just like you, thousands of entrepreneurs just like you in a classroom environment all over the United States. And, if you maintain 100% compliance, you will maintain 100% profits, because if you take the additional steps to follow every rule, every law, every guideline, you'll never break any rules, you'll never have any fines, you'll never have that Mississippi dealer license suspended. So 100% compliance will equal 100% profit. So thank you very much for listening. If you're deciding to go ahead and move forward on your license, you will have to go to Jackson and take that 8-hour course. Now, before you make that step, and before you pay that $375, you might want to consider downloading our training course and taking that online. That does not qualify you to get your Mississippi dealer's license, but it's going to really go into the mechanics and the nuts and bolts of operating a dealership and make sure that it's right before you take 8 hours of your time and spend it in Jackson taking the training. So, if you want to take our training, you can certainly do that at any time right there at the dealertraining.org website. You can just click on the big blue download training button. When you're ready to change your life, you can definitely download that training. So thank you very much for listening to the Dealer Training Podcast. If you found value in this podcast, I would like to ask you to please consider sharing that podcast. Please consider subscribing to the podcast. And like I said, when you're ready to take your income to a whole new level, just go to dealertraining.org. Once again, that's dealertraining.org. Click on the big blue download training button, and you'll be able to start that training course in just a few moments. Thank you very much for listening to the Dealer Training Podcast. This is Dallas Johnson. I want to wish you the very best of luck with your new business.